power hour. LSU. Boom!
All night long. Yes.
Let's freaking go. It is time to chat LSU football spring practice. We've already had not one but two practices. Today was the first time the media was let in. And, of course, there is a lot to talk about. I want to start with Corey Raymond. So, a few notes. Obviously, we did our first spring practice breakdown where we go through a few clips that was released by the media, and we break down a few different stories. We talked a lot about the A.J. Swan versus Ricky Collins versus Colin Hurley battle for QB2. Obviously, I think a lot of you would believe that the QB2 battle is more than likely going to be between Ricky Collins and A.J. Swan, but obviously, Colin Hurley, if you are just looking at him throwing the football, it is a treat to watch him fling it. So, really excited to talk about that. But I do want to start with C-Ray. This is going to be his tallest task as an LSU coach, or really just as a coach in general, right? At LSU for so long, he was just recruiting and redeveloping and re-putting out elite players each and every year. This is probably, when it comes to talent, this is going to be the hardest hurdle he's going to have to overcome in his first year at LSU, because he just doesn't have a Derek Stingley that you could just throw out there and shut down half of the field. This is going to be tough, right? And it's not just going to be him. It's going to be, obviously, Jake Olson, the safeties coach, alongside Blake Baker. But ultimately, Corey Raymond is who everyone's going to point to in particular to fix the cornerback position, right? You could see in individual drills in the practice clips that were released how much he was working with Ashton Stamps, who has had a lot of hype at LSU over the past the past year here. And Ashton Stamps would have been probably a lot more productive if he wasn't dealing with injuries for a good portion of last year. So, what's going to be hard for Corey Raymond in the secondary is we don't know whose best position is where, right? I feel Ashton Stamps is an outside corner. But you look at some of the other corners, I don't know Javian Toviano's best position is corner, but that's where they're going to have to work him. What is Sage Ryan's best position? He was working with the safeties today. One interesting player is Major Burns. Is he going to be converted into a star hybrid linebacker type, kind of like how Alabama over the past couple of years have used a Brian Branch or an Xavier McKinney type of player? So there are so many questions about this LSU secondary that Corey Raymond's biggest challenge and this LSU's defense biggest challenge with the secondary is trying to see whose best position is safety, whose best position is corner. Maybe the guys who are running with the ones right now aren't our best players. Maybe it is. But we should just move to an entire youth movement with Deshaun McBride and so on and so on. Obviously, we got to see Jair Brown from Ohio State for the first time. We've seen J.K. Johnson. We've seen quite a few different new names in the LSU secondary that are coming in with a lot of hype. Austin Osbury coming over is definitely a very interesting player. We saw Joel Rogers wear that number 22 uniform that was once worn by Christian Fulton before he switched over to Uno his final season. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks as LSU experiments with different players in the secondary. And this is going to be new for Corey Raymond, right? Because every year at LSU, he just had bona fide, can't miss first or second round level corners And in this LSU secondary right now, there just isn't anyone, and in particular, it just isn't anyone at corner. But I do think JV Antoviano can be a good SEC corner, even though I feel better with him at safety. I do feel Ashton Stamps can turn into something. And look, maybe it is J.K. Johnson that comes out of the woodworks after being injured all of last season. Maybe he is available, and maybe he is going to be healthy going into next year and being that guy. Obviously, Zay Alexander is on the sideline, not being able to participate. That's a guy who will also be in a part of the LSU plans moving forward. So shout out to Corey Raymond, shout out to Bo Davis, and shout out to Blake Baker. It's so good to see them back at LSU where they want to be. Now, one spring practice rumor we've touched on it briefly is Colin Hurley, right? I mean, when you're just watching him throw, it is smooth. It's like butter. It's a lot of fun to watch. If I always ask this question, if you were just looking at the quarterbacks throwing versus air, who looks the most impressive? And honestly, you could make the case that Colin Hurley is the most natural thrower out of the four, even though I do think that's Gary Nussmeier. He throws such a beautiful ball. But it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for Colin. But I've heard good things, right? And look, Colin Hurley is in a very interesting spot. Okay, this weekend he's not even the most popular freshman quarterback on campus, right? It's a freshman quarterback coming into the next year in Bryce Underwood. This is a huge recruiting weekend for LSU. We'll talk more about that on Sunday night when all the recruiting visits and rumors and all of that is locked in. We talked earlier this week about the visitor list. I've seen some absolutely ridiculous names on these visitor lists. And I am really looking forward to some big-time Tigers recruiting over the next couple of years and committing over the next couple of years. So it's a good time to be an LSU Tiger fan. We do say hi to Lance, who's been holding it down on Facebook. Thank you so much. Pick Six Cards. Please shoot me a message on Twitter or Instagram at Power Hour LSU. I've got a bunch of Derek Stingley cards that you have never seen before. I'm also a big Derek Stanley collector, and maybe we can work some deals out. Let's go to Chance. Corey has a body type that he likes. Pause. No, get out of what you're talking about. Who on that roster fits that mold? Yeah, so what Chance is referring to here is Corey historically has had long athletic corners, right? You think Greedy Williams, you think, Dante Jackson wasn't the biggest guy, but if you were next to him, you can see he's long, right? He's very, very, very athletic. Honestly, Zay Alexander it actually fits that mold pretty well. And right before Zay got hurt, and it's important to point out when Zay Alexander got hurt, it was an injury after him making a play at the end of the first half, a play that should have never actually needed to be made. And that has haunted me. Because the only reason, and I don't like going back into the past, but the only reason Alexander got hurt is because of the stupidity of the mistakes that we kept making as an LSU defense, and we never actually fixed it. I don't know why we didn't fix it. It's sad when I, who am not a big time coach, am able to see some very basic high school level stuff that we were not fixing at a Division I Power 5 school that employs millionaire coaches. But I would like to think that these small little things get fixed. I won't talk about that because that's in the past. Now we're going to the future. But yeah, I think Zay Alexander could have a pretty big season next year for LSU. Like we said earlier this week, it's going to be interesting to see if he is going to be ready to go for the start, all ready to go for the start of the season. It would be unfreaking believably nice if that is the case. Let's go to Fetty here. I expect a lot of young guys to make a splash. It's wide open in the secondary. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Wait, where? Here we go. Gave out one earlier this week. I'll send out another. Well, since we're talking about the secondary, let's do this one. Got a Tylen Singleton autograph photo right here. Okay. You know you want Tylen Singleton's autograph. First $20 super chat gets that in the mail. Or if we get to 50 in supers, I'll give that out. We got a ton of autograph cards we'll be giving out. So there you go. Please like this stream. Tag me on Twitter at Power Hour LSU. And if you are watching this on Facebook, share this to as many Facebook LSU groups as you possibly can. Okay. Email powerhourlsu@gmail.com. There you go. What's up, Sibs? Good to see you. Tyler, what's up? Good to see you. S. Young makes a good point. Raymond now has to prove himself again. Yeah, this is going to be tough, right? Because look, I know a lot of people have compared Corey to Blake coming back to LSU. It's not the same because Baker was not the DC, and he's coming back as the DC. Corey Raymond is coming back in the same capacity that he was, or near identical capacity that he was in when he was at LSU. Now, I am very open about my personal life. I've got a bunch of really fun things coming up, but I did have an emergency last night. It may not look like much, but my dear wife had to go to the ER because she sliced her finger open on a knife, and it was not pretty. Okay, I'm not going to show you the stitched up portion of it, but if it is in your heart's desire, we do have insurance, but the medical bill is more likely going to be hefty. So get yourself some PHL merch, powerhourlsu.com. Things slow down in the offseason anyway. Or Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat at Card of the Power is that. And please do. Please support us. And obviously, if you Super Chat, Venmo, Cash App, get merch or whatever, I go straight to your question. And it could be anything under the sun. Okay. Also, I had a minor emergency, obviously not to that level of severity, because my wife has been hobbled. I was getting out of the shower, and she earlier today left her towel next to the towel rack, and it was dry. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to waste a towel. And obviously, I dried my whole body off. I know you need the visualization. I have glitter all over my face. You might not be able to see it. So if you're wondering why I have glitter on my face, no, I did not make a quick trip to Larry Flint to go see my friend Cinnamon. Julie, thank you so much for the super chat. And I did not, go to Hobby Lobby and get in a fight. This is makeup glitter on my face. And I don't care. It is fabulous. No, I'm kidding. I hate glitter. I tried to wipe it off my face earlier today. I didn't want to get back into the shower and scrub all that off. But now I'm here. And I recognized it like 5 to 10 minutes before my live stream. So I went in there, wiped my face. Then was like, this isn't coming off. I don't have time to get back into the shower. And now I'm here. And it's bothering the Shiite out of me. So there you go. He did have some nice words about Josh Williams. So y'all show some love to Julie in the chat, our first super chatter of the evening. She actually got a Joe Cryer autograph photo just a few weeks ago. So Julie, you could send me a message on Discord, or you could type it in here. You get to pick the next question. Go right on ahead. We are a big PHL community. There you go. Stripper dust. That's what I said. My friend Cinnamon. She is an absolute. So here we go. It's 2nd and 7. I'm going to hit that. Unless you wanted to see some old Jaden Daniels film studies. Okay. Let's see here. I'm not loving the yellow thing. Let's do dark purple. Why not? I'm going to switch the colors up tonight. Let's do strobe. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. There you go. Red. Let's do blue. I like it. There you go. We'll do blue for a little bit. All right. Yeah, I'll check it out here in just a second. How that glitters is in gold. You're right about that, Sibley. Okay. Next topic. Shout out to LSU baseball. Great comeback victory yesterday. And what was that? That was Nate Ackenhausen that closed it out. Good stuff. Obviously, I'm not worried about LSU baseball, having to come back versus Southeastern. When you play these when you play these midweek games versus Louisiana schools, it is their World Series. What was it last year? They lost to Nichols. And if you actually watch that game versus Nichols, they were doing some Gold Glove, Ozzie Smith kind of crap in that game. So yeah, good stuff. LSU baseball. I am not worried about them at all. I've said what I've said this week about LSU women's basketball. I would not mind if I want them to win tomorrow. Okay. But I would not mind if they lose the next day. So they don't have to play 3 games in 3 days and wear their legs out before the tournament. What I will spend a little bit of time early on here is LSU men's basketball. Okay. Obviously, the Jalen Cook thing didn't help. It just didn't help. I do want it to be known, though, that losing the way that they did versus a bad Arkansas team, and this Arkansas team is very undisciplined. Now, what I would also tell you is they do have a player who went on a Chris Jackson level run in Khalif Battle, and he broke the record for the amount of points scored over 4 games. So Arkansas obviously got a little bit better towards the end of this year, but they're still not a good team. They almost beat Kentucky. Yeah, they beat Purdue earlier this year. Yeah, they beat Duke earlier this year. I was at that Duke game. But that's not a team that should handle you. I've always said this about losing on the road. I don't care if you lose by 1 bucket on the road. I really don't, because winning on the road in college basketball is so hard. But that was a near must-win game for the LSU men's basketball team, and they came up short. And there are quite a few instances where Matt McMahon's teams just get outplayed for long stretches of time. And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. Because you look at, the Trey Hannibals, the Jordan Wrights of the world, they're not spectacular players, but I do think that this team is good enough to have not played so many games this year where they are just out of it, right? Or having to come back from like 25 down in the second half. Okay? So that's an issue. That is a major issue. I think Matt McMahon, I would give him a solid B- on this season. C+ if you wanted to grade a little bit more harshly. We don't know exactly what happened with Jalen Cook, but man, it is frustrating to have gotten beat that bad by Arkansas last night in a game that you really, really needed to have. Obviously, Will Baker killed Arkansas the first time, and he struggled last night. God, that was really, 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 really harsh, especially someone like me who takes the Golden Boot rivalry very seriously. But man, now it's beat Missouri in the SEC tournament and cross your fingers that you go on a long run. And look, if you're like Chance and you feel this team is just not good in terms of raw talent, and you think that they overachieved, then that's fine. For me, I'm kind of in the middle. I really am. I don't think Mac McMahon did a bad job, but you do have to admit there were a lot of games where we just were out of it. So let's see. Let's see if they can make a run in the SEC tournament. I do think this team is good enough to go on a run in the SEC tournament and get weird, right? And you would have to go on an amazing run on the tournament, in the tournament to win what? They would have to win 5 games in 5 days. So we'll see. Amacat wants to do some Jaden Daniels chatter. I've spent a lot of time talking about Jaden this week, so I'll give that a break. But if you want to, feel free to super chat, and I'll go straight back into Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams chatter. On the NFL channel I launched, I got a bunch of NFL draft breakdowns down the pipeline on the way. So let's go to Lance here, who's been in here from the beginning. Who do I think wears the earpiece on defense? That's a good question. Probably Greg Penn, more than likely. I think that's who would wear it, especially if he's going to be the mic. But it just depends on who the mic will be. You could also see Lance, a safety, wearing it, but that is part of the issue at this point for the LSU defense. Lance, is there isn't a maestro on this defense. There isn't that that Chad Jones, Craig Steltz, even a Derry Beckwith, who we mentioned earlier in the live stream. There's not really that type of player who in the middle is just solid, right? A guy that you just feel is just a stone cold killer. Now, we know Greg Penn has some ability. We know Harold Perkins is an animal, but it would be great if there was just one experienced steadying force in the middle, right? Like Kelvin Shepard, if you will. So I could see Major Burns being that guy. Okay. Yeah, I can't go to Power Hour NFL, please. If you have not subbed to the NFL channel, please. It is costing me thousands of dollars. Okay. It's crazy how viral my videos have gone on the Power Hour NFL channel. And I can't get paid for them until I get 1,000 subscribers. So please, if you've not done it, please go to Power Hour NFL and subscribe. Okay. Next thing from spring practice. Okay. Talked to 2 different people who attended today. One a media member, one somebody else as well. And it is important to note that the true freshmen who early enrolled do have some good opportunities here. I'm not a guy who loves the early enrollee system. I just wish all the signatures happened in February, but that's a different story for a different day. I thought it was interesting, Ethan Callaway getting some run at the second team guard. Obviously, athletically, he is mammoth. Cohen Eccles also getting some run as a second team center, right? Cohen Eccles is a very young, talented player who has some positional versatility, who at a really good program in Katy, Texas, played a lot of different positions on the LSU offensive line. You look defensively, Joel Rogers is a defensive back that we've just not talked a whole lot about. This was a 2-way player in high school and has a lot of talent, right? Wearing number 22 back there, getting some run at safety. So very interesting, that there are some true freshmen who have the opportunity to step up and play right away. One thing that I'm hoping for with this true freshman class is, we tend to think of development as being a slow rise, a slow process. Okay. What gets interesting about the slow rise when it comes to recruits is it is a little bit of a myth, right? Normally, if you really think about most of the great players at LSU, okay, you saw something special early, right? Now, there are some positions where that's impossible, like quarterback or kicker, or it's a onesie position, only one person plays. But when you really think about most of these special players at LSU, you saw something in their first season. Okay. They made a play, they did something, right? Like a very famous example of this is Jarvis Landry, right? True freshman season. He was buried on a depth chart of a run first defensive team, and he was behind Ruben Randall and Odell Beckham Jr., right? So, he didn't play a whole lot as a wide receiver, but versus Auburn, you saw probably the best hit we've ever had on a kickoff. Okay. That was a special display of athleticism. And you just see that, right? Like Jamar Chase and Terrace Marshall, their first seasons at LSU, they made some plays. Okay. And that wide receiver room was very deep, right? With D. Anderson, Stephon Sullivan, Derek Dillon, right? These guys weren't like just world beaters, but they were on the depth chart, and it was tough to play. So I say that because last year, how many year one or year two guys had like one special moment as a true freshman? Well, if we were to go down the list, obviously Whit Weeks made a few special plays. Deshaun Womack had a few big plays on kickoff. How many of those guys had those kinds of plays? And I was thinking earlier today, I was like, well, maybe it's more than I initially thought, right? Maybe there are more special young players that are rising up in year two. Javian Toviano was a guy that we were banging the table for here on PHL to get more playing time. And when he finally got playing time versus Alabama, it was he looked fine, right? It wasn't spectacular, but he looked fine, right? But I'm hoping in the spring game or something, first game versus USC on special teams, we see some of these defensive players making special plays. Just something that jumps out at you, that just punches you in the face. Like as Sam Cat pointed out, now Tyrann Matthew is obviously, one of one example, but right then versus North Carolina, you're like, okay, this is something otherworldly. But like even on like I don't know, even like on a smaller scale, right? Are we going to see something this spring that just really jumps out at us in like a scrimmage or anything like that? That's what I'm looking for. And we'll see. One guy that has consistently blown up my phone from people at practice, media members, the one guy that is just every week since the signing period has been PJ Woodland. Consistent. It's Carter. This guy can really freaking play. This is a 3-star diamond in the rough. PJ Woodland. It has been consistent. He's one of the few it's where it's been like that. Okay. Obviously, I'll be cautious. When I watched his high school footage, I thought he was very good. But that's the one guy that is just consistently blown up in my phone and Twitter DMs, texts. I even saw him on a 247 all freshman list. PJ Woodland, number 27. Now, next LSU player I wanted to talk about today. All right. Aaron Anderson. There is not, and I really do mean it, there is not a single LSU offensive player under more pressure than Aaron Anderson. Not a single one. Okay, now why is that? Well, this is year 3 for him. And we've not had a special moment from him. You know, this goes along with what we're talking about. And when I was getting ready for the show tonight, let me see. I was going to save this for my final topic here. But you know, with Aaron Anderson, there was so much hype. There was so much hype. They gave him Uno, okay? And I was like, oh, I don't know. The Uno, that's a lot. You know, the Uno is worn by the GOATs at LSU. So they gave him Uno, and there was just so much buzz surrounding him during practice. There's, you know, all these clips of these screen passes that he was housing. I even put him on a thumbnail of a video, and you know, there was other media members telling me this, other people at LSU telling me, hey, Aaron Anderson's real deal. And I was very cautious. You know, I was always one during the transfer portal cycle last year who said, man, Xavion Thomas is in the portal. I hope we go get Xavion Thomas and Aaron Anderson. I wanted both of them. And now we have both of them, okay? And in the first team offense today, Aaron Anderson was starting today. And the other 2 starting receivers were Kiron Lacy, who's going to be our number 1 guy, and Chris Hilton, who really separated himself in the spring game. I say in the bowl game. Okay. Let me ask you this. Type A for Aaron Anderson. Type C for Chris Hilton. Who will have a bigger season next year? Type A for Aaron Anderson. Type C for Chris Hilton. Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Because obviously, I think Chris has grown on me. Chris has really grown on me. Okay. Lance says Aaron. Jared says Aaron. Type A for, I think it's without a doubt Chris Hilton. Okay. But there's a lot of you that still believe in Aaron Anderson. Okay. I wish Brian Thomas. I wish BT was in here. Okay. Just to make sure we got a few Brian Thomases, not the actual number 11 Brian Thomas. But I wish Brian Turner. We have Brian Thomas's that watch. I wish Brian Turner was in here. I think Chris Hilton is bound for a pretty nice year next year. I still have some skepticisms, but at this point, Kiron Lacy is my clear-cut number 1 guy, and it's not close. It's not close. But it would not shock me if Kiron Lacy caught 80 balls next year. Would not shock me at all. I mean, that's a really, really, really high number. Would not shock me at all. But now we have Xavion Thomas. And him and Aaron Anderson are the same exact profile. Same exact height, almost same exact weight, same exact build. Both punt returner backgrounds. And Xavion Thomas is this year's version of Aaron Anderson. They're in the same recruiting class. Okay. I have let it be known since before any one of them stepped on the field at LSU or in college football when Xavier Thomas was at Mississippi State and when Aaron Anderson was at Alabama. TJ, thank you for the super. I told you that Xavier Thomas is a special football player. Okay. And I don't like throwing that word around. I really don't. And I've even cooled off a little bit on my high school prediction, even though he had some very special plays last year in Mississippi State. But coming out, my grades of the high school recruits in the state of Louisiana was Emory Jones 1, Will Campbell 2, Xavier Thomas 3. And obviously Will Campbell and Emory Jones are both special. Obviously Will's had the better career up to this point versus Emory Jones. But, I mean, Emory's been really, really good at LSU. But so far, Xavier Thomas has been the best wide receiver in that class. None of them have really done a whole lot, but I'm hoping the best for Xavier Thomas because if he doesn't do anything next year, everyone's going to be like, Carter, you said he was great. Telling you right now, it's hard to play wide receiver at LSU. It's hard. Let's go to TJ with the super. Kiron is the next first rounder out of wide receiver U. First rounder. Well, you might be right, TJ. Brands matter. NFL teams don't like to be wrong, and they've rarely been wrong on LSU wide receivers. How many LSU wide receivers have not lived up to their draft capital in the NFL? Few. Terrace Marshall is one. He's been in Carolina, though. Almost every single LSU wide receiver exceeds expectation. So that helps out Kiron Lacy a lot when it comes to draft profiles. Who are the best wide receivers for next year's NFL draft? Let me think. I guess Isaiah Bond at Texas would be one. Let me see. Just trying to think. I don't know. Oh yeah, probably someone on Ohio State. Emeka Ibuka, yeah, he's probably number one. Kiron might be there though. Xavier is my KJ. Hey, man, I have some flag plants on guys that I love, man. I really do. Let me see. Oh, yeah, Luther Burden. My bad, Luther Burden. And T-Mac, Territory of McMillan. Okay. Yeah, it's stupid. Let me see. Yeah, Luther Burden. Luther Burden's definitely number one. Travis Hunter, yeah. Isaiah Bond, like we mentioned a minute ago. Evan Stewart, okay. And I guess Kiron Lacy would fall. Oh, yeah, Antoine Juice Wells. A little bit of an injury history, though. Kiron Lacy, though. There we go, Luther Burden. And yeah, Territory McMillan. Leonard Fournette. I don't know if Leonard's going to play again, y'all, which is kind of sad. I still think the Buffalo Bills choked. What's up? What's up, Sax? What's up, dude? Kyle Parker is someone that's just kind of being slept on, man. They used my voice in one of his highlight videos. Like me some Kyle Parker. He's getting second team reps at the slot right now. So there you go. It was interesting. I did not see Landon Ibieta at practice. He's still on the official roster, though. Okay. Jason, what's good, man? Don't forget, y'all, live stream schedule remains the same. Saturday evening, 5 p.m., I am calling a championship basketball game. I know that coincides with baseball's first pitch, but this might be the last time you get to hear me call some college basketball. So if you are interested, feel free to hit me up. I'll send you a link. I'll tweet it out at Carter the Power and at Power Hour LSU. Just got a text from a former LSU Tiger, Kirsten Pittman, just texted me. T-Bob had a clip he posted earlier today, and there was a time when him and Kirsten Pittman got confused. Now, if you know what both of these fine young gentlemen look like, you would know that those two look nothing alike. But T-Bob was wearing number 49, and he was returning a kick, believe it or not, as an up man. And the announcer called him Kirsten Pittman. The college football double number rule is in effect. Chillmonger, man, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, man. Shout out to Chillmonger. Shout out to all our Omega Psi Phi's of PHL. The Qs, baby. Shaquille O'Neal, Makai Wingo. The list goes on and on. Ollie Gay. Though he never got to coach Jimmy Lindsay. I know I'm missing a lot. There are a lot of LSU Qs. How do they have Ricky Collins at third string? It's a good question. Right now, though, there is a lot of value of having A.J. Swan as your top backup. A.J. Swan has started a lot of games. Yeah, how can I forget the biggest of them all? Frank Wilson. Shout him out. My family, lots of AKAs on the female side. Male side, lots of noops. One of my best college buddies, Marcus, he was a Phi Beta Sigma. So Ricky Collins, we'll chat some Ricky. And like I mentioned earlier, we did a whole video on Ricky Collins. He's on the thumbnail earlier today. So if you haven't watched it, go check it out. But I'd prefer you stay here for right now. Okay. Ricky's in a tough spot. Okay. All three of the backup quarterbacks are in a tough spot because they're not the starter. Okay. They are not the starter. College football is very hard on quarterbacks. Very, very, very hard. Okay. Actually, let me answer this. Yeah, well, the pretty boys, man. They don't. Yeah, the hard part about my family is that we don't get to spend a whole lot of time together because we're all spread out. Most of my AKA family lives in DC, and a lot of my Noop family lives in Baton Rouge. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I would have thought more of my family did. I didn't do fraternities, but I would have thought more of my family would have been in fraternities. because at Howard, shout out Bison Nation, fraternity life's pretty big there. But I do want to talk about Ricky. Let me first start with the quarterback position. How much it sucks to not be the guy. Okay? It is so important to point out. And I do think we tend to forget this. Okay? Jared, okay. I'm pausing again because this is an all-time great comment right here. I'm so glad I wasn't drinking it. This would have forced fluid to fly out of my nose. Oh, that's so freaking funny. Oh, oh, that's so funny. I gotta write that down. Oh man. Trey Hannibal, RB3. Trey Hannibal is an athlete, though. He is a freaking athlete. I just have to George Strait write this down. So I know you guys know the Garrett Nussmeier story, and I've gotten to know a little bit about Garrett. I've not gotten to talk to Garrett directly. Would love to have him on. I know he's been on some other shows recently. You know, it's wild that Garrett Nussmeier is the starter, okay? And you can make a strong, and I mean strong case that Garrett Nussmeier's road to being the starting quarterback is one of the wildest we have ever seen at LSU. Okay? You know, I always go back to Matt Flynn's story. Matt Flynn's story was even crazier because, you know, he was a part of a two-quarterback class where the other guy was, you know, an all-time great in Jay Russ. And there we go. So, look, Chillmonger, good to see you. And Chillmonger, congratulations. First $20 super chatter of the night was getting a Tylen Singleton autograph photo. So, Chillmonger, just shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com, and I'll get this out to you. You didn't even know that. Should we read much in Ricky being third string in the first practice since it's only spring? I wonder how they sold Ricky on this. So let me finish this on Garrett Nussmeier really quickly. Okay. Garrett Nussmeier was the odds-on favorite to being the third guy multiple times. Okay. Like, that is the crazy thing about Garrett Nussmeier's journey. Multiple times, he was the third guy. Okay. When he started, Max Johnson, Miles Brennan, Garrett Nussmeier. We move along. Walker Howard comes into the fray. Miles Brennan comes back. It's Miles Brennan, Jaden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier versus Walker Howard for QB3. Okay. Miles Brennan's out of the picture. And then for the third time, Garrett Nussmeier is viewed as the third guy because, well, people felt Walker Howard was going to jump him. So then it became Jaden Daniels, Walker Howard, Garrett Nussmeier in the minds of some. That never really officially became that. And that is how much Garrett Nussmeier had to persevere to even become the guy. So the question is going to be if Ricky Collins is going to want to do this, okay? The hard part about it is you've got to win the job in practice, which isn't an actual game, okay? Ricky Collins' best attribute is his playmaking ability, right? He's got some special velocity, okay? Now, it's not like Josh Allen, Joe Milton level arm strength, but it's pretty good. And one thing about him is that his release has always been a little bit quirky in the minds of many. But is Ricky going to want to go through what Garrett Nussmeier went through to win the job eventually? Okay. One thing working against Ricky Collins isn't necessarily who's in the quarterback room now. It's who will be in the quarterback room next season, which is Bryce Underwood. Okay. Bryce Underwood is a better quarterback prospect than Ricky Collins. Okay. Bryce Underwood's a better quarterback prospect than anyone that's ever been to LSU. Okay. And Colin Hurley can play. Okay. I've got a pretty solid grade on Colin Hurley. I really, really, really do. And Colin Hurley loves LSU. Now, to your question here, okay? Joe Margaret, and it's a good question. Ricky being third string in the first practice. And I know you weren't able to watch the video earlier. I mentioned that. It is something, okay? It's not everything, but it is something. Because what you notice in the spring practice is there are a lot of really talented transfers who aren't running with the ones. Really, the only transfer who was really running with the ones was A.J. Swan. And then on the defensive side of the football, Jordan Gilbert. Okay. Those are the only two transfers that were really running with the ones on either side of the football. Okay. And they aren't the only two talented transfers that are there. Okay. So what that tells me is, well, they think very highly of A.J. Swan. And what that also tells me, Chillmonger, is and look, you got to remember when A.J. Swan was deciding whether or not to go to South Carolina, which was the heavy favorite to landing him, LSU really cranked up the pressure to get him. Okay. Was A.J. Swan going to be the last quarterback in the portal? No. They could have waited and got somebody else. But they didn't want to be left out into the cold and not bring in an experienced transfer at all. And you got to remember, they needed to move on this before we saw Garrett Nussmeier in the bowl game. Okay, so A.J. Swan had a lot of starters experience. He had some good starts. He also had some games like he versus Kentucky, which was just bad. But A.J. Swan can play. You know, I don't think what I saw was amazing. He was throwing to pretty good receivers at Vanderbilt. But there are some dimes that he has thrown in games. And LSU wanted to bring someone in who has starters experience. And I don't think that they would have needed to put the foot on the gas pedal to do that if they felt a gazillion percent confident that Ricky Collins could be that top backup. I also think LSU and everyone in all of college football knows that the top backup the top position in college football outside of your starting quarterback is your backup quarterback. Okay. The number one position on your roster is your starting quarterback. Your number two position is the backup quarterback. Last year, Florida State, if Jared Verse wasn't available, but Jordan Travis was available, they would have had a better shot of going into the playoff. Okay. It's all about the QB. Now, it's not all about the QB. But it's not only all about the QB, it's also about your backup. And A.J. Swan has proven that he can play SEC-level college football. And Ricky Collins has not gotten his chance. LSU just did not want to wait for that, though, with their quarterback room being the way that it was. Okay? And I honestly, Chillmonger, if you were asking me, and this is nothing against Ricky Collins or Colin Hurley, I would have done the same thing and gone and got A.J. Swan. I would have. Now, it's not me saying that A.J. Swan is going to beat out Colin Hurley or Ricky Collins for the number one backup job. But If I know that the entire college football playoff, the committee, the most powerful people in college football, the college football playoff committee, told us that the backup quarterback is the most important thing on your team, I would have listened. I would have listened and done whatever I freaking could to get AJ Swan to LSU. Okay. So, and this falls up here with Jesse. Unfortunately for Ricky, the chances of him being the starter is very low. And for this year, it is. But what I would also say, Jesse, is the chances of any LSU player being a starter at quarterback is extremely low. It's extremely low. Okay. There are so many things that have to go in your favor to be the starter. So many different things. The guys ahead of you have to decide whether or not they want to go to the NFL or transfer. The guys behind you also affect your future with a certain team. The offense you're in, the coach you're with, the offensive coordinator, the protection. There are so many different things that go into you being a successful starting quarterback at the collegiate level, to the point where there are times I think becoming a starter in the NFL is a clearer path than being a starter in college, right? Because in the NFL, if they think you have some type of ability and they spend any type of draft capital on you, they're going to give you a shot. They just are. College, I mean, Walker Howard was 5-star Louisiana, son of an LSU quarterback. Couldn't see the field. LSU said, we're going with Garrett Nussmeier. So, Schillmacher, it's a really good question. I'm sure Ricky felt some type of way about it and them going to get AJ Swan, but they needed to do it. I would have done the same thing, and I like Ricky. I've talked to people close to Ricky. I'd love to have Ricky on the channel. I try. But every other position, you're going to get playing time at LSU if you have any semblance of talent in practice. If you show any glimpse, okay, they're going to put you on the field at any position except quarterback. It's just how it is. Now, what I want to also do before I get into a few other questions here, I want to talk a little bit about the rest of the SEC. So on the SEC channel, I did an Arkansas breakdown, much like our LSU breakdown today, and they are a mess. They just are. I will say this, though. A Florida source reached out to me and told me Derek Lagway is a real deal. Okay. He was the number 1 rated quarterback, 5-star, who went to Florida. I'm not going to watch a practice. Plus, it is just practice, so I'm not going to, take too much away from anything. But, yeah, I mean, he is really good. Based on the quarterbacks I watched going into last year, Lagway was probably the second best quarterback for me. Okay. Man, he looks like a freaking unit. I know him and Colin Hurley are close. Lagway's from Texas. He went to Florida. Obviously, Hurley from Jacksonville, Florida, went to LSU. Oh, please tell me I've been okay. I was about to go crazy. Yeah. Colin Hurley is definitely one of the youngest LSU football players of all time. I mean, what he's doing is crazy. It's honestly crazy. Quarterback is a position where being older really does matter. Where at the other positions, it's better if you're younger as far as your college and NFL life cycle. So, I mean, he really is defying the odds and taking a leap of faith here, jumping up in classifications and being as young as he is. But you got to remember, Colin Hurley has trained with Anthony Richardson. Like this young man is a freaking competitor. Okay, and he is a lot of fun to watch. Out of pretty much any LSU quarterback that's come to LSU, he is up there when it comes to just enjoyment of watching him play. There we go. Mm. Manga creator Akira Toriyama has passed away. The anime goat. RIP to a goat. Dragon Ball Z. I think that's Dragon Ball Z, right? Man. Dude, I would grow up watching that show, man. Like Krillin powering up, Kamehameha. Thank you, Jared, for the super. Do you think anyone moves to RB with the lack of depth? Yeah, I think so. Pegasus, they got Ermin Lane, they got a few other walk-ons in there that'll eat up some reps. I don't know. I really don't know. Part of the irony with Trey Holly not being available is last year he was one of the two running backs available during spring. So LSU kind of had this issue last year. Okay. But yeah, it's Caleb Jackson's going to get a lot of run. And I don't know if the LSU coaching staff wants to run Caleb Jackson into the ground during spring because he himself, has some injury history a senior year of high school. And they still don't know what they have in Caden Durham, right? I mean, I right now at this point, okay, and probably in about a month or so, because this is such a big high school class, it is taking me a little bit longer. I'll have like my final grades on, because I do my own prospect grades and I'll release it on Patreon. It's going to take a lot for me to move Caden Durham from the number one spot. It is going to take a lot. All right. What's up, Forbes? You say he thinks Collins is good. Let's see. It's going to take a lot for me to move off Caden Durham, though, man. Like, he's so freaking good. I didn't want to go down this road, but here we are. I kind of want to because I'm getting older and I want to be old man yelling at clouds for a second. Man, there was a piece of me that's been a little bit more progressive and open to the changes that come with college football. Because I am such a big fan of the NFL, and I've always liked college a little bit more than the NFL. But I always wondered, what would it be like if things were a little bit tighter and a little bit more professional at the college level, right? There weren't any more rent-a-wins and players getting salary. I mean, I was open to all of that, but even though I'm still open to players getting salaries and still, like, I still think it's ridiculous that you have these institutions begging its fans to play to donate to NIL to pay the players when the TV contract money is what should be paying the players or whatever. But the 14-team playoff, the rumored 14-team playoff, might be it for me, okay? Even though it helps my team. And one thing I do want to point out, okay? And this along with Aaron, I was going to say for a little bit earlier, but I've already done the Aaron Anderson rant. LSU has caught a lot of breaks with the NIL stuff, okay? I'm not smart enough to know the financials. I didn't get into covering college football to cover the business of college football, right? There's plenty of people that do that. Christy Dosh is probably the best, but there's plenty of people that cover the business of college sports. And, I've seen it, firsthand with boosters and money and all that stuff when I was actually living in apartment complexes next door to some really good LSU football players. What I would say, though, is a 14-team playoff would really hurt the sport. 12, I'm open to, but a 14-teamer is going to guarantee 3 lost teams getting in. Okay? A near guarantee 3 lost teams getting in. It's not good. It's not good. Okay? But, the neutral viewer loves playoffs. We're in America. Americans love playoffs. Okay? And our obsession with playoffs is part of why we have so many issues in sports. We are just so playoff focused. Okay? When magical things happen during regular season games. But what does the media tell you? What does these anonymous Twitter accounts tell you? What do these talking heads tell you? Nothing matters unless it's the playoffs. There was a Tennessee player who was celebrating winning a regular season title. He did this thing for a regular season title. And some of the national media were shitting on this guy Why are you celebrating a regular season title? Hell yeah, you celebrate a regular season title. A regular season conference title is as impressive as winning the entire March Madness. It is. Okay. You don't luck into winning a regular season title. March Madness, you need a shit ton of luck to win March Madness. Okay. And yes, you need luck to win a regular season title, but not nearly as much as you do to win, a random 68 team tournament in neutral site courts and whatever. What makes college sports and college football special is the fact that random nights in Columbia, South Carolina, can knock you out of the entire college football race. So, yeah, and Chance pushes back and says every sport has a playoff except Division I football, right? I'm fine with the playoff. I'm perfectly fine with the playoff to determine a national champion. What I'm not fine with is two things. Unlimited playoff expansion in the name of just draining every dollar you possibly can get. And number two, this idea that we have to just make everything about the playoff because it makes so much more money and because it's just the culture, right? The American sports culture is unless you win the whole shebang, you don't mean squat, which is stupid. It's just a dumb way of looking at sports. Okay. And I'm not delegitimizing winning it all. It should be celebrated. But you should also celebrate winning regular season games, winning regular season titles. Okay. But now we got to have a 14-team playoff. We got to have it. But this was my final thing. Okay. There was in 2019. So when LSU won the title in 2019, it also happened to be the year that LSU got the new $28 million locker room. Okay. And I think a lot of you remember the discourse around it. That was the biggest locker room in America, or it was the most expensive locker room. What was it? It was, I think that was the final number, 28. I'll make sure I get the. Okay. All right. So it was in 2019. So 2019 LSU, we win the national championship. We had, for those that don't know, this is the LSU locker room. Okay. And obviously it's Tom Luganbill talking about it. And there you go. This is via LSUsports.net. Okay. So you see the locker room. And it led to a lot of other teams getting fancy locker rooms. The timing for LSU could not have been any better. Okay. When it comes to raising money, there's actually an infinite amount of money that's out there. There's no cap to how much money you can raise, right? I don't think Sibley is in here anymore. Sibley, I hope you are, because Sibley has been in these meetings before. I haven't, right? But he knows boosters at two major schools. He knows boosters at Texas. He knows boosters at LSU, okay? And when it comes to firing a coach, there are people that athletic directors and the powers that be know to call to raise the money to fire and hire coaches, okay? So there's always more money out there, all right? What I can tell you, though, is there's not like an infinite amount of money for projects anymore, right? There's not like it's going to be so much harder with NIL now and the fundraising it takes with NIL to build big time facilities. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that facilities aren't going to be built, but the people who have the money are going to be saying, well, do I want to have an LSU locker room or do I want to go get players with this money? Okay. So LSU got lucky on two fronts. They built this locker room in 2019 and $28 million went towards this project. Did the locker room help us win a national championship? Well, I'll let you decide that. But they got it done before two major events happened. The NIL coming along shortly after 2019 LSU, and COVID shortly after 2019 LSU. So they built that facility, that state-of-the-art facility with the spaceship locker rooms. Okay. Do you know how quickly it takes for things to feel dated? Like it happens so fast, right? Like it really does. It like, you know, I listened to a song even 4 or 5 years ago. Things get dated quickly. That LSU locker room looks like it was built yesterday. Like it was so state of the art, ahead of its time. Okay. The fact that that's still one of the premier facilities, and you got people like Destroying and all these people that come tour these facilities and all that stuff, LSU timed it perfectly. Now, the timing had more to do with luck, but I'm so glad they got that thing built before NIL, COVID, and all that stuff, because I think they still would have found the money to get it done. It's just you don't know. You really, really, really don't know. Let's go to Biggie Bull, who's been in these locker rooms. Saban has been asking for updates since before he left. Yeah, you got to owe Nick Saban a lot of things. WCA, I heard, was a Saban thing. I might be wrong about that, but there you go. Now, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you do super chat, we'll keep it going all night long. Hmm. Player X. Let's go. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. I think the conference championship games will be eradicated soon. As crazy as that sounds. And the thing that people aren't asking Amacat is what the hell is going to happen to the Dr. Pepper chest pass competition? That's my question. I'm very excited. You know, I consider myself a semi North Louisianian. You know, I've stooped for North Louisiana. There's not a whole lot of like LSU content creators in North Louisiana. I got my guy Ant, I got my guy Sean Fox. There's a few others. But not this weekend, but the next, I'm going to, am I saying this correctly? Shudrint. For the first time. I've never been to Shudrint. Yeah, I know it's like just outside of Ruston. I might have driven through there once. But I am going. So let's go. I've never been, though. I've never, ever, ever been. Pretty excited, though. While Player X comes up with this question, let me see if I can get. Oh, that looks cool. Ha. Let's go. Yeah. What y'all know about that? That looks cool. Let's do that. No, that's too boring. Let's do more. Let's do orange. Got orange in here for the $20 super. Let's go. Every $20 super gets to orange. No, thank you, Player X. Shout out to you. Shout out your fam. Shout out the Green Wave. Y'all might have to take my Louisiana card. And I've not been to Mardi Gras. I think it's been 4 years. Caleb Williams, when Ryan Leaf was calling you out. Biggie Bull, Jair Brown. I'm down, Player X. I've never taken my wife to Mardi Gras. She needs to get her finger better, though. If you're just joining us, my wife almost cut her finger off last night. Had to go to the ER. So your supers are going to go towards this. Doesn't look gnarly, but is gnarly. And she is in pain today. Mm. I'm starting to get emotion. Dragon Ball Z. It's crazy. Mm. Let's go to Antron. Everybody, welcome Antron to the channel. Carter, what do I think about the women's tournament? Our girls got to bring it back to us this weekend. Everybody, welcome Antron. He's a Cowboys fan, so he needs loving. I actually believed in you guys this year. No, like I said, you know, it kind of goes counterintuitive from, you know, what I said a minute ago. If they win the SEC tournament, obviously I'm going to be very happy. If they don't, I would prefer them lose before the finals. Okay. I would prefer them get upset in the semis like they did last year versus Tennessee. Even though, of course, if you lose to South Carolina, like in like a very close game, that might help with your seeding. But I've always believed this in NCAA tournament basketball. Your tournament performance doesn't affect the seeding as much as you like to think it does. And I really am a believer that it's not good for your team to make a run in a conference tournament if you want to make a run in the NCAA tournament. Because your legs just get heavy. Now, I would tell you this, all right? And I'm actually glad you brought this up, Antron, because I was going to forget this. And let me make sure okay. All right, yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is correct. I should have quadruple confirmed this. So the games are being played in Greenville, South Carolina. And the reason why Greenville is very important is because that's where LSU won the final. That's where LSU won their Sweet 16 to get to the Final Four. Okay. Let's not forget LaDasia Williams. Okay. If I'm the only LSU YouTuber on this day to remember what LaDasia Williams did last year, so be it. That will be the single most forgotten legendary LSU performance ever. Because you got to remember, versus Utah, that was a tough matchup for Angel Reese because Utah had a stretch five by the name of Lacey Peely. Okay. And she can hoop. All right. And we needed all the post presence in the world to win that game. And LaDasia Williams was that for us. Okay. We would not have won March Madness if it wasn't for her winning us that game versus Utah. Okay. And of course, the girl airballing the free throws at the end, it didn't help. But man, LaDasia Williams, shout out to you, saving our arses because we would have not won the national championship if it wasn't for you. Okay. Take a few more here. That's a good question, Antron. Yeah, Cole, I'm of that belief too. I mean, I think if you're an up and coming program, sure, SEC tournament, conference tournaments, they matter. But if you're Kim Mulkey and you're LSU and you won the Natty last year, no one's going to give a shit if you win the conference tournament. Even if you beat South Carolina, no one's going to give a crap unless you win the whole thing. Now, like I said earlier, that shouldn't be how it should be, but it's just how things are, right? I hate that, but it's just the truth. There you go. All right, I will get a few more in here. Big thanks to our top super chatters. Good super chat tonight. Player X, Jared Chillmonger won our autographed Tyler Singleton photo. Yeah, now Jasmine Carson in the national championship game. Crazy. That was still crazy. That's an all-time heat check. I'm looking at this. You know what's crazy is like I don't agree with everything Josh Pate says, but when it comes to actual like national issues, he and I actually do agree on quite a bit. Like we're both anti-playoff expansionists, and he actually just released this. Okay, I want you to take a look at this. This is what I would do too, or I would do some. I wouldn't do quite this, but if college football wanted to fix itself, it would get rid of a few teams in the SEC, and this is what I would do. Right, I would make a 10-team conference where you play every team in your conference once a year with a 9-game conference schedule. Okay. And then you can work some things around with like Big 8 and stuff like that. So, he takes 4 teams out of the SEC here and he puts Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. This is what I would do. Now, obviously, they would never do this, but it would bring regionalism back to the sport, and you would actually have conferences. Now, as many of you PHLers know, we've done different exercises such as this, but this is what I would do. Okay. This is just what I would do. And then, look, you can just put one team that wins each one of these conferences into the playoff. Now, of course, the SEC, if you're South Carolina, you don't love this. If you're Kentucky, you don't love this. But if you're South Carolina and Kentucky, you're both basketball schools anyway. Mississippi State obviously wouldn't love it. Ole Miss wouldn't love it. But, tough luck, Buttercup. But, like with the big national guys, you guys know I don't oftentimes agree with them. But that's what I would do. Yeah. That's true. Great comeback from the baseball team. Kimball Walker says, I'm a liar about what? I'm curious. On both sides. Yeah, we talked about true freshman earlier. Let me give you a redshirt freshman. Jackson Howard. Very interesting player. There's a piece of me, Pegasus, that I don't want to say it's going to piss some people off, but that's okay. I would be interested in looking at Jackson Howard as a tight end. I really would. Even though our tight end room is stacked with, your more traditional tight ends like Mason Taylor and Mac Markway, and then your freak split out wide receiver tight end hybrids like Pimpton and Trey'Dez Green. But yeah, Jackson Howard is someone I'm interested in. It's a redshirt freshman. Let me see if I can come up with the redshirt freshman on offense. DJ Chester. There we go. I gave you a redshirt freshman. Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker as well. All right, Player X, I am not far behind you. Guys, I appreciate it, guys and gals. I know these off-season chats can be a chore, but the fact that we consistently had 80 plus in here, I appreciate it. Oh, I guess it doesn't work. Oh, it's because it's in the wrong one. There you go. Appreciate each and every one of you. And as time moves on, we'll do more baseball and all that. I'll wait till SEC comes around. But yes, if you want my spring practice breakdown from earlier, let me go find it. Please, if you have not, actually, this is the most important thing I need you guys to do. Okay? If you have not done this yet, please go subscribe to my NFL channel, Power Hour NFL. Please. Because I need to hit 1,000 subscribers before I could start making some money. I probably lost over $1,000 not having 1,000 subscribers because I've had some videos really freaking pop off. So please go subscribe. Okay. Don't forget, this in podcast version will be available on iTunes, Spotify. But I always prefer you watch a replay on YouTube. Edit. Power Hour LSU. Boom. And go subscribe on as many devices as you possibly can. Tonight, we are doing, hamburger patties. Let's go.